What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Grounded. As you can all see, the man, the myth, the legend, my business partner, Isham Hipshire, is back in the building.
What's up?
He has been MIA. Isham, what's going on, dude? Tell the world what life in the mind of Isham has been like and all the fun stuff that you've had to been going through.
Man, so I am talking to you and everyone else from the state of Missouri. My wife, who is active duty, we got stationed, or she got stationed, I should say, here in Missouri. And so we came from Alaska to here. We drove, and so it was quite the journey. And we haven't been able to do any podcasts, and we had no internet for a long time, no cell. It's been brutal, but we're here. We're somewhat moved in. My office is kind of set up. I still got to put up my whiteboard down there, but I got some. It's a really cool area. I like Missouri. I'm a big fan so far, and happy to be back with the Grounded fam and the Wholesale Elite fam. So, and happy to see your mug, dude.
Yes, go. Happy to see this cutie old face of mine. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't even introduce the show appropriately. For those that are listening, this may be your first time. I've actually been somewhat surprised by how many new people are showing up every episode and new faces I see in the comment section, which is pretty cool. But for those that are listening that aren't familiar with the show, this is the Grounded series, where it is kind of a spinoff of our Wholesale Elite series and our podcast. That airs every Monday on Apple, Spotify. Check it out. But this is more of a deep dive into our minds because Isham and I are one of the owners, or I guess two of the owners, the founders of a land acquisition company based out of Florida. And so this episode or this series, Grounded, is specifically talking about land and investing in land and wholesaling land and all of the above. And so we want everyone to ask questions, interact with us. We want everyone to be here, and we're only doing this for you guys to provide value to everyone. You know, we have a lot of other stuff going on in the day, and we could be doing it, but we want to be able to give back and help you guys at least add a tool to your tool belt and be able to essentially have the opportunity to know a little bit. If you need a wholesale land because an agent brings you a land deal, at least you'll have some information or some knowledge of it. And that's really what this show is for. We understand that not everyone is obsessed with land like we are. But at the same time, if you can add a little information, little knowledge, you never know what opportunities are around the corner, and one opportunity could change your life. So taking the time to learn and understand something that you may not feel comfortable learning is vital. It's huge. It's helped me in my entrepreneur journey, and I'm sure Aisha could speak for that as well. Taking the time to learn extra little nuggets, even if you feel like it doesn't apply to you at this moment. So it's awesome that you guys are here. Awesome to, again, interact. Gray, I remember last episode I was calling you Gray because I did not want to mispronounce your name. So what's going on, man? Glad to see you here. If anyone's listening, feel free to drop in the chat, say what's up. But this episode is going to be a fun one just because it's kind of the breakdown of the process on A to Z, 1 to 10, on how to essentially not only get your first deal or maybe your next deal, whatever it may be, but just the key steps in order on how we kind of dissect. If I was to start from nowhere, kind of just how I would dissect in all the above, and what am I going to look for in terms of picking a market? What am I going to look for in terms of what type of land deal do I want to go after? How am I going to dispo that land deal? What are some of the acquisition methods? So it's just kind of a rundown of all the major points, pros, cons, all that fun stuff. So starting with that, we're going to start with the pros and cons, the very basics of, wholesaling land or land investing. And I should at any moment just jump in. You don't even need to raise hand, do anything. But pros and cons. So one of the pros, there's a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons. I'm going to be honest with you. It's just one, I think land is misconceived as easier. I do not think it is easier, and neither does Isham. Once you're in the land space, there's actually, in my opinion, it's actually harder. And I say that somewhat as a bias, but I don't at the same time. Just because a lot of the information that you really need to understand a land deal can be very tricky and hard to get. It may take a lot of phone calls and may take a lot of digging on the internet, rather than a property where if you're wholesaling a property, a single family home, you're looking at comps, and it's really easy to determine the value of a neighborhood, or really easy to determine the value of a single family property versus a land deal. The same lot in the same neighborhood could be two different values. It just totally comes down to what someone wants to pay for that land. Now, that's the biggest pro to me, is that land in the sense is, if you know what you're doing, it feels easier. Like now I don't have to do as much underwriting, but the con is there's a long learning curve, way longer learning curve than it took for me on single family residential homes. It probably took me, I would say, 6 months to feel truly comfortable in land, to where I feel like I actually know more than most. 6 months, but I also did my first wholesale deal with single family residential in 1 month. So if that says anything, I don't know if it does. I have no. But the cons for land is just that, in my opinion, it's really hard to value. And that's ultimately how you do deals in the first place, which is why there's really, to me, only one con, which there's more, but that's the biggest con, is it can be really tricky to value. And at the end of the day, real estate all comes down to numbers. And so if you don't know how to value something, it's really hard to do a deal. The other con is your buyers are really, you're kind of limited, because there's a lot of people, a lot of mom and pops, a lot of husband wives, a lot of single dads, a lot of single moms. There's maybe the pharmacist at Walgreens that wants to do a flip. Like, there's a lot of single family buyers, in my opinion. There's not as much in land. And so that's another huge con in land, is there are plenty of people that would be interested, but your buyer pool is a lot smaller, but it allows you to build better relationships with those buyers. But I don't want to keep spinning my wheels on this. Isham, do you have any?
I'll jump in. Yeah. One thing I will say about the buyer pool. So Tanner's absolutely right. Like, in single family, you've got a pretty broad basis of people that are willing to buy that property, or that, you know what I mean? That could be your funding source for that deal. It could be the dentist, it could be a fix and flipper. It could be a buy hold investor. There's different people. It could be another wholesaler that's helping you move that deal. Whereas in land, it's basically just builders or developers, same thing. And then speculators, which are people that are, buying land to sell it a little bit later for more money. That's it. The pro about that is usually those people are public. Builders aren't hiding. Whereas fix and flipper guys, you gotta hunt them down, and they're getting hit up a lot. And a lot of people want to take their time and ask them, a ton of questions about their buy box and whatnot. Whereas builders, they're not getting hit up. When we call a builder and let them know who we are and what we bring to the table, they're like, "Where have you guys been my whole life?" So that's a huge difference for me. I love land. And as Tanner said, to me, it's definitely not easier, but who wants easy? Like, you're not going to make money doing anything easy. If you want easy, go work at a gas station or something, I guess.
And there are different types of buyers, but for what our business model is, it's really limited to basically the two that Isham was talking about. There are land buyers that will buy a lot, maybe in a neighborhood, to park their boat on. I mean, we're in Florida, so that's a common thing. But so there are different types of buyers, right? There's buyers that want to buy a lot just to build their dream home on. But for the most part, who we work with and our company works with is builders and, speculative buyers, like Isham was saying. And so keep that in mind. And we don't do rural land, which is why we don't work with farmers or agriculture, type of investors. Like, we really work with residential and not inner market, but, why am I drawing a blank? Urban or suburban type properties. But what I want to go over next is identifying target markets. And I'm going to keep this one really short, because I actually just did 2 weeks ago something exactly on this. But make sure you're not in a market if that's either one, like New York City. There's no land in New York City. But two, you don't want to be in a market where it's a declining either population or job growth. For land is powerful because homes are built on land, right? There's structure, not even homes, but structure is built on land that's either going to provide new jobs, or it's housing for people that are either moving into a market or, whatever, just there's a place to live. And so you want to be in a market, when you're looking for a market to pick where you want to make your land, where you want to go invest in land, be in a market where there's a population growth and there's a job growth. Like in our main market, the military base that's in our market's bringing in 30,000 new people over the next 2 years. that's a lot of that's a lot of growth. 30,000 people. That's hundreds of thousands, or not hundreds of thousands, but that's thousands of families that are moving into our market. And so now it's a great time for a lot of our builders to start building, affordable housing and spec homes and small duplexes to build and rent because of that. So you want to make sure you're in those type of markets where you're doing a lot of research before you're diving in. And the other thing is, understand that the most important metric that builders are going to look at is the job growth. So see what jobs are in your marketplace, because ultimately, if you're in a market where there's, the average salary or the average income is 350,000, or I'm just throwing crazy numbers out there, but average salary is 350,000 a year. So we're talking like California. No, that land deals you're going to be able to go after are going to be more expensive because those builders are probably going to be building a little more luxury. So just understand your market. I just want to keep that super short because like I said, made a pretty lengthy video on it 2 weeks ago. The fun part, this is probably what a lot of people want to hear, is the different types of acquisition methods. It blows people's mind when we tell people that we only do cold call. We do texting, but it's not automated SMS blasting. We don't SMS blast. We literally only cold call for our land deals. And yes, we only do land. We are probably one of the handful of companies, maybe if not the only, that doesn't do direct mail, although we are starting a direct mail campaign. So but it's not like we're throwing out offers in these mailers. It's just simply a postcard saying, hey, this is who we are, essentially. Letting the brand be known for unwind investments. But at the end of the day, like, there's so many methods of acquisitions, and you could take the same acquisition methods that you do in single family residential over to land. Essentially the same thing. Direct mail, cold call, text blast, agent outreach. Agent outreach and land is something we're going to start dabbling into a little bit more because it's so untapped. 90% of these agents do not know what the land is valued. I look at listed lots in our marketplace in neighborhoods that we're selling lots for 30 to 40,000 to builders. They have them listed for 120, 130. And it's like a lot right down the street. And it's really a $40,000 lot. Like, agents are probably pissing off a lot of sellers. You guys would be surprised how many sellers we talk to that have a deal that's listed, and the seller's really pissed at the agent because the deal's been sitting on the market for 300 and something days. It's not selling. They're not getting any offers because they're asking double what really that lot should be valued, or that land should be valued. And so talk to agents. Like, agents want to sell deals. Again, all agents care about is making sure they get paid. So if you're providing a solution to the agent with certainty and you're providing value and you're telling this agent, like, hey, look, here's the deal. This is what I do. I work with builders. I work with developers. I'm not actually going to be the buyer. However you go about it in your business, I'm not going to get into the weeds of that, but however you want to go about it, but let the agent know, hey, I'm serious about, acquiring this lot and we want to close on it. Like, we're going to close on it. I want to make sure you get paid. And so, because again, we've done deals. We've only done 1 or 2 deals with agents, but it was honestly by accident. It wasn't even like on market stuff. It was literally by accident. But all we told the agent was, hey, we want to make sure you get paid before anyone else. Guess what that agent did? The agent went to war for us to get some of these lots. Bada bing, bada boom. We assigned these deals and moved on and paid the agent. So agent outreach is huge in land, especially if you're in a bigger market or even a sub market. Cold call, bread and butter. If you have the ability to cold call, do it. Now, here's the trick with sellers and land is most people, again, super transactional. There's not a lot of questions you can ask a seller that's not public information, and sellers know that. Most of them do. And so you will get, if you try to go to a seller and say, what's the zoning of the lot? We have found, at least in our market, other markets may be different, but in our market, it's a turnoff because it tells the company, or 2, we're ignorant enough to call them and ask for the zoning when that's something that's freebie online that we could look up. So what's a way that we've kind of got around recently, and we've been playing with it in our scripts for our acquisition team and stuff. One of the ways we kind of got around where we're able to ask kind of ignorant questions that we could already find ourselves, but we simply just let them know up front, like, hey, absolutely, we can look up that information online, but we still wanted to reach out to you first to see if you're even interested in selling, so we're not wasting yours or our time, because we like to buy 3 to 6 lots a month, and we just want to make sure that your lot's something that we're seriously going to be interested in making an offer on. Is that fair? Yeah, that's fair. Okay, whatever. And then now we have like an open door to ask whatever we want, even if it's an ignorant question. Hey, what's the zoning? What's the dimensions? Like it's okay at that point. You'll still get a lot of sellers that are like, eat shit, but it's okay. It's fine. Those are sellers we don't really want to do business with anyway. So cold calls, the bread and butter. It's beautiful. You build rapport instantly, especially if you're doing virtual cold call. At least put a face to, like a voice to it, not a face, a voice. Another thing is, like, if you're like a solopreneur and you're wholesaling, now this goes for residential, this goes for land, whatever you're doing in investing, have a social media presence, people, and leverage it. Like, tell sellers on the phone, especially if you're virtual, hey, I'm a real person. Go look at my Facebook. Go look at my Instagram. As long as you don't, like, you're not like shotgunning beers, at a tailgate or something, like all down your Instagram feed.
Or if you are, some builders like that.
Or if you are, but yeah, that's true. That's true. Or if you are, but leverage that. Like, that's huge. We say that all the time to sellers, buyers, whoever. It's because a lot of people have doubt. Like, there's a lot of scam going on right now, a ton in land. A lot of fake. Somehow people are getting sellers' information. They're calling agents. They're listing these properties, and they're not even the real seller. It's weird stuff going on right now in land. So if you can leverage that you're a real person, that's the biggest thing. And most landowners are older. And no offense to old people by any means. I'm just throwing this out there, but they are a little more protective in terms of sending online information and phone calls from numbers they don't have saved in their phone, and stuff like that. So any way you can present that either you're local or, hey, I'm a real person, I'm here in the best interest of you, blah, 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 you're going to win the game, hands down.
One thing I will say about agent, just working with agents and whatnot in your acquisition method is this. Here's the thing. This is the reality of it. Agents want to make money, just like us, right? Just like investors, they want to make money. And I heard a person say a long time ago, it stuck in my head, you can be right or you can be rich, right? But trying to focus on being both is pretty difficult. And so, look, if an agent has something overpriced, do you want them to be right or do you want them to be rich? And I know agents are money motivated, so they want the money, right? It's the reason why agents will look at comps so they can get the highest value. And it's not necessarily just so they can get the biggest commission, although that it's attached. They want to get their client the biggest bang for their buck. The problem is when it's been sitting on the market forever, it's like clearly it's not going to happen, right? So what we do, like a technique that we use on some of these, especially one of these accidental ones, is, we look at the dollar amount that the agent has it listed for, right? You work the 3% or whatever the percentage is, and you look at what their commission would be, right? And so you want to get on that agent's good side. And it's very easy to do that because you just don't take money out of their pocket. Best way to get on an agent's good side is to educate them respectfully while not taking money out of their pockets. They'll love you for that. So, we'll do a thing like, we'll look at the price and we'll say, hey, look, at this dollar amount, that just doesn't work for us. Obviously it's been sitting on the market for a while. This, and I will never say, you clearly, came up with this comp, blah, blah, blah. I just make it sound like, maybe someone in their office, told them this dollar amount, but I'd, say something along the lines of, hey, look, when this was, getting evaluated, it was probably being matched up with other properties that were sold to end users, being that someone built their dream house on that. Those people are willing to pay whatever for that lot because they need to live right there in 123 Main Street. And so unfortunately, when lots are being evaluated at the same price point as those, it's going to sit for a while. And so here's what we want to do because we want to work with you. I know that, what were you set to make 3% on that? And they'll say, yeah, 3%. Okay, cool. So, $3,000, $8,000, whatever it was. How about this? In our agreement, if we're going to be at, instead of 120,000, we're going to be at 70,000 for this lot. We'll keep your commission the same. We don't want you to lose money on this. We'll keep your commission the same, but we need you to talk to the seller and get them to realize that price wasn't right. So now they're incentivized because they're like, oh crap, okay, cool. And they'll want to work with you more because they know that you're fair, and they know that you're not in this for any bad or wrongdoing. We're not trying to undervalue. Like, we're talking to the agent, so there's no friction there. We can tell the agent exactly how we came to this price. It's not a problem, and they'll understand. Oh, okay, so the percentage of our bill. We'll even show them our calculator. Why not? We want them to work with us. And so agent outreach can be pretty strong. Sorry to have to go back to that, Tanner, but I just wanted to make sure that the good people of the world knew, how that worked.
Yeah, no, that's, it's all gold, and it's all true. Agents are, a lot of them, not all, but most of them are money motivated. It's not a bad thing by any means, right? Like, you get into real estate. Most people get into real estate for money. I did. I'll admit it. You hear all the money in the world you can make from real estate. And so that's what most agents do. So again, they just want to hear they're making money, right? We worked with an agent that got excited about making like $500. He just made money. That's all he did. It wasn't a lot, but he made money, and he was extremely thankful and happy about it. So as long as agents know they're getting paid, pay some of their bills, they're good. They're happy. Everyone's happy. The next biggest thing, and again, I'm just going down the order. I want to bring up more about agents, but it's more on the disposition side. So we're going to wait. Conducting due diligence. Now, I've made videos on comping calculator, kind of what I look for in the disposition process. That was two episodes ago. I actually shared my screen and showed you guys what I would be looking for if I went into a market I'm not familiar with. So I did that from scratch. Basically, here's how I would get a quick analysis just using Zillow on a market, and I have zero familiarity with. So if you want to see that, go back 2 episodes and watch that. But don't leave yet. So conducting due diligence. This is where we get the most questions, right? Because again, it's just dirt. It's ground, some trees, whatever it is. What are you doing due diligence on? Well, most of the stuff you're doing due diligence on is either paperwork or it's stuff underground. Which again is what makes it a little more difficult, is because utilities are the biggest thing in land. So if you're on the phone with the seller, that's the first thing our acquisition team asks the sellers. Hey, what's going on with your utilities? Is there sewer? Is there septic available? Like, what's going on? What do we need to do? In our market specifically, because we're in Florida, there was a hurricane that came years ago. There's still properties that had the houses demoed off of the property. So it's just grass, but there's septic tanks that sit under this ground. They're just capped off because they haven't been used in years, but you would never know driving by it because it's overgrown now. So it's important to ask these questions, because that's either something that you're going to find out way later down the line, which could affect the value of the land. And now yet either have to go back and renegotiate before closing, or a builder's not happy. And so you want to get the utility information really first thing. Here's the other things. A lot of agents, I've learned this because I've called them on this. A lot of agents don't know the utility information. So don't be scared to help them, like educate them. Don't come at them sideways because they may not know something. Again, most agents don't know land. They get a lead from their broker that gets slapped on their desk and it says, here's a seller that wants to sell their land. Most of the time, those agents do not know anything about land, but they're not going to say no to a listing. Why? Full circle, because there's money involved. So anyways, utilities are the biggest question. Ask if there's septic, ask if there's sewer. And I believe last episode I actually showed like a utility map, what that would look like. So check that out last episode. And that was actually a really short episode. So due diligence is the biggest thing. The other thing in due diligence, you're going to be looking for zoning. So zoning is essentially what can be built on this lot. There are a lot of regulations. There are a lot of, here, I'll just pull it back up real quick. So there are a lot of regulations based on your zoning. So the zoning is going to determine the setbacks. The zoning is going to determine what can be built on this lot. So for example, I'm looking here. So most lots that we work with are zoned residential. So we got residential zones. I'm scrolling down. Boom. So this is where our setbacks are. It tells you single family duplex dwellings. There's a breakdown of what's allowed to be built on these, like up here. So R3, duplex, triplex, quadplex zones, allowable uses, duplex, triplex, quadplex, da 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 da. So basically, the zoning is just information and just gonna inform you on, hey, here's what can be built on the lot. Why is that important? Because that helps determine the value. So that knows what kind of build you're going to go after. Now, if you can only build a single family home, you're probably just going to be going after a spec home builder or a builder just go look for single family new construction. And again, I kind of broke that down, and I can do it again. Well, no, that's 2 episodes ago. So that was actually a really fun episode. I'm not going to lie. I keep talking about it, but everyone go watch it after this. So zoning, utilities are your 2 biggest things. Obviously, does the lot need to be cleared? That means if there's trees, if there's structure on it, it needs to be removed. Builder's got to clear that. It's got to be flat. I'm not going to get too into the weeds on fill dirt and all that stuff. It's not really necessary. So just understand the basics, utilities, zoning, and doesn't need to be cleared essentially. Also flood zones and wetlands. Just make sure it's not in a flood zone or wetland. Wetlands are really dangerous because there's a lot that can go into it. Now, calculating potential profitability. This is another question I get a lot because this also goes into conducting due diligence. This is where, hey, let's figure out what a builder would essentially make, right? So I will pull up one of our calculators here, and I will be more than happy to show everyone what this would look like. So here is one of our recent, this is one I was just underwriting the other day, right? So we have our deal. This is our subject address. These are our comps. This is new construction or newer. I don't mind going back to 2020 builds as long as it's sold within, recent. So as you can see, sold date, this is built in 2020, but it sold 3 or 4 months ago. That's okay if it's built in 2020, just because I know there's most likely only been one owner in that house and it's still built 3 years ago. So the conditions, there's not a lot of deferred maintenance unless they're just terrible homeowners, which usually isn't the case if they're buying a new construction off the rip. So, and plus the build generation, the build era, the materials, all that stuff, it's going to be the same from 2020 to 2023. So it's not like it's a 1920 house. But here's like a quick rundown. I always like to compare lot sizes. Always want to make sure that I'm not looking at a house that's on 1 acre versus a house that's on a 7,500 square foot lot, because land does affect, people do get emotional about, ooh, I have a big yard. Great. That ultimately some sellers will pay more for a house. So I just want to make sure our lot's somewhat similar. It doesn't have to be like we're comping a single family house, as long as it's somewhat similar. This is the biggest information real quick. Builders want to see what the average price per square foot of these builds are selling at. What can they project their house to sell at on a price per square foot basis if they build it similar in bedrooms, bath, and square footage? So that's what this, again, comp does. So it basically just shoots us, here's 4 sold comps. Here's the averages. So the average, it sold $295 a square foot at 1675 or 1676 square foot. The average sale price, $500,000. So I just know, boom, we're going to be looking at, we want to put our build size. I always like to do a little less. So if I go to 1750, boom, whatever. This is what these numbers right here is what a builder would build the house for. So this is how I run my numbers when I'm looking at stuff, or at least doing a super quick analysis. I look at the comps, what their averages are, price per square foot, build size, and average sold price. I really care more about the sold date, but sold price is whatever. And that way I can understand what a builder most likely is going to want to build in that neighborhood. So knowing what I know here on the averages, I see, okay, 1,500 square foot. Now your build cost, that is going to be the biggest part that you have to learn. Every market is different. And so that's where this takes you getting on the phone and talking to builders, talking to developers, talking to people, figuring out what kind of market it is. In terms of build costs, there are some parts in our market that I know builders that are building at $100 a square foot, $110 a square foot. There are other parts in our market where builders it's costing them up to $300 to $350 a square foot just to build the home because it's in luxury areas close to the beach, right? And so if you wouldn't know that and you just use $150 a square foot everywhere because that's what you've been told, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity. And you're probably going to get cussed out quite a bit by sellers because your offers are going to be extremely low or extremely high. So the build cost is up to you as the investor to go out, hustle, and learn. Everything else is predictable. So Isham, is there anything you want to throw in or anything I maybe have missed, didn't describe well?
No, man. I know we've gone over the calculator quite a few times, and there's an episode. I think it was 2 weeks ago, infill lot comping calculator, where you went more into detail. And so I think giving that video a review will really kind of suss out the nuts and bolts and any quick questions you guys have. And by the way, guys, if you do have questions, throw them in the chat. If you're on YouTube, throw them in the comments, Facebook, whatever, throw them in the comments. We'll see them. They'll pop up. So if there's anything you've been wondering, anything you've been kind of struggling with, or just anything that's not making sense that we're saying, throw it in the chat and we will clarify.
Yeah, and that could go for anything on questions for sellers, questions for builders. How do I do this? Who do I talk to for this? Like, we are open to answer anything. It does not just have to be, hey, what's the value of this land? Or, hey, what's this situation? Like, literally anything. And also, if you guys have not heard of sales disruptors, I will have to put a link. I can put a link for the sales disruptors in the right after this episode ends. But check it out. I will be honest with you guys. It's Steve Train's and Ian Ross's. I think Ian Ross. It's their like sales community, sales training program. It's only $97 a month, and guys, it has made the world of difference for us and sellers. We literally just locked up a deal 2 days ago. That's probably going to net us 25 grand. And that was a deal that we had lost contact with the seller. Very blunt, very straightforward, a guy that just didn't give us a lot of information. Make me an offer, that type of deal. Using the Vivid framework that we learned from sales disruptors, we were able to pull that seller back in and get him to sign a contract within 3 days out of thin air. And that honestly shocked us completely. I was not expecting it until I got the email back. He signed. I was like, whoa, that was the most I've ever been shocked in this business, like for real. But so I'll put that link in the bio and check that out after this episode or whatever you guys want to do. But
look, hang on. Before you do that, dude, you got to throw it over to me because I'm the friggin' sales guy. Like sales is my jam, right? Like I've been doing sales for a long time. I love it. I really do love it. And looking for a way to teach our team, it was challenging. We tried a lot of different things. We really did. We tried a lot of things, from everyone reading the book together, David Sandler Sandler training, the what's the guy, the Chris Voss, Chris Voss. Yeah. Never Split the Difference. Like he's got his own sales training and negotiating. And we've tried a lot of stuff, man. And it wasn't until we had Steve Trang on our podcast and we were like, you know what? This guy's an introvert. Not only is he an introvert, he's an introvert and an analytical person. That's the worst salesperson ever. But he figured it out. And I'm like, if he figured it out, we have to look into this sales training, right? And so we look into his sales training and it's $3,000, right? $3,000 for the course. And we're like, all right, well, let's invest in that. So we ran into Steve in Arizona and he's like, no, don't pay $3,000 for the course. He's like, I have a brand new deal going right now. It's an ongoing monthly subscription where you get the $3,000 course, it's a $2,500 course. There's a lot of different things that you get. Plus there's daily calls, there's daily role playing. Ian, the guy who heads up a lot of the sales strategy stuff, is the man. He's a beast. Like, and this is from one sales guy to another. He gets it. So we locked in. We were like, this is $97 a month. Like that's easy. So it got REI Sales. We'll put the link at the end. I didn't want you guys to wait to hear the link, but we'll definitely put it up at the end. But yeah, gotreisales.com. We'll definitely get it'll change your business. So
yeah, and I could go on for another hour about that course. So definitely check it out. I personally, it switched my mindset like a full 180 in terms of how and a sales approach, a presentation approach versus a consultation. Most of us are taught in real estate, wholesaling specifically. If you follow TTP, like Brent Daniels, if you follow a lot of these mentors or gurus, and they're so successful, right? They have every right to teach what they do teach. But at the same time, they teach a lot of presentation style. This course is all about consultation style, and I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not going to say anything. So you guys go check it out and go look it up. But if you guys want to learn the difference between presentation and consultation and how consultation is, I'm a believer in it because we started this. I started full-time digging into it less than a month ago, and we would have never gotten the deal we got unless it was for the sales course, and it happened in less than a month. So if you spend $97 a month and you could make 25 grand off a $97 investment, that's a no freaking brainer, people. Go learn this stuff and go participate. It's incredible. But moving on, I'm done spilling the beans about sales. I'm passionate about it because it's awesome. Disposition methods. This is kind of wrapping up the episode. And I've had 2 people DM me on Instagram the last 2 days and says, Tanner, how do I find builders? And I go, Google. No, I'm just kidding. But yes, Google. But no, so it's not just builders. Again, guys, depending on the type of land you're doing, there's so many different methods. Now, this is where I wanted to bring back into agents, because a lot of us are so familiar with agents. It's a free resource. You go into Zillow, they have their number right there. There's not a lot of, if you're on a time constraint, say you have a W-2, say you have kids, say you have a bunch of stuff going on and you're trying to get into this business with a part-time schedule, agents are your best friend because they're easy to find. Their contacts easy to find. They've already established a network in that market or that community if they're a hustler agent. So leverage these agents. And so, for example, one of the deals we're doing right now, we're actually about to do a novation deal on like 4 commercial lots in a package deal. And it wouldn't have happened if there wasn't a broker that we met, that we got introduced to from another agent that's doing another one of our novation deals. And so these agents all have a network, right? If you're authentic and you're genuine and you do things ethical, right? With these people, it gets noticed. And now people start to say, hey, look, John over here, he's got another deal. I don't have time for it, blah, blah, blah. They start passing along your information to people. Next thing you know, you're building a reputation in your marketplace. So agents will sell deals for you. There's multiple different ways to structure. This is another question I got. I need to start just writing these down and bringing them so I can write them down on the banners. Another question I got is someone asked me, how do I structure a deal with an agent if they're selling my deal for me? I was like, oh, damn, this is a good question for the podcast or for the episode. And basically there's so many different ways, right? It's the fun part about real estate. Literally, you can structure anything anyway, as long as it's legal. I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to give any advice on what is and what's not legal. But anyways, the best way to do it is the traditional way, which is if you have a deal under contract, take it to the agent. Hey, add your fee on top of our fee that we're asking. Agents are 99% of the time totally cool with that. As long as you're not asking something that's like crazy overpriced. Most of these agents, they're okay with making $2,000 on the deal. They're okay with making $3,000 on the deal. So if you just leave enough in there for them, they'll sell your deal for you. Now, another way to do it is build in their commission, right? Which is what we do with one of our agents. One of our agents, we pay 5% on each and every deal of the purchase price. And she goes out, she's got a buyer that's bought 3 or 4 deals from us. And it's like clockwork. There's no time involved. She's worked with us enough to where she trusts us. She knows we're legit. Our buyer knows we're legit. So she gets us answers within a day if we have a deal for her. That took time to build that relationship, guys. But at the same time, that's a way to leverage an agent, right? Leverage her network, leverage her relationships. Because some of these buyers are loyal to these agents. I've said this on a previous episode. I reached out to one builder one time or one investor, and I get a call like 5 seconds later from his agent that he works exclusively with. And I've talked to this agent multiple times, right? But I didn't know this was her builder. So a lot of these builders, they rely on their agents to do a lot of the groundwork for them. So that's the best part about agents is go build those networks.
Shout out to Will Coggins. I see you, bro. Hey, what up, Will? Will the Thrill.
Will? Yeah, Will the Thrill. Will the Thrill. Lightning McQueen over here. So for those that don't know, Will's got the most luscious head of hair. So,
oh my gosh.
And just a nice red beard. God. Beautiful. Anyway, so agents are your best friend in dispoing. That's if you're on that. I only use agents if you're on slight time. If you're on like a part-time schedule, go after agents. If you have time to sit here and do a bunch of due diligence to find these builders, Merry Christmas. That's where the gold is. Because these builders want land. They need land, right? And 99% of the builders aren't D.R. Hortons. They're not Holland Homes. They don't have in-house acquisition teams out there sourcing and looking for these land deals. A lot of these builders have to go manage contractors and roofers and all these different people, right? They're not actually just sitting here dialing on the phone. And even if they are, which I was at lunch with one of our builders like a week or two ago, and he was telling me he's tried to cold call. He said he absolutely hated it because he didn't have the time for the follow-up. That's all it is. That's all what we do is every deal, most of them are on follow-up calls. It takes some deals we've done in like 2 calls, but majority of them are like 10 to 15 calls. It takes to finally get a deal under contract. And so builders want to work with you. Investors want to work with you, especially if they're on the hunt for land. And so one of the easiest way to find builders in your market or buyers for land in your market is simply Google spec home builders in X market. If you're in Atlanta, spec home builders in Atlanta. If you're in Minnesota, I don't know, Minneapolis, spec home builders in Minneapolis. And so it'll actually just give you a list of companies like right off the rip, and I can show you. So Isham, give me a random juicy market. Just anything. Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham spec home builders. Boom. Look at this. We got Signature Homes, Clement Homes, Embassy Homes. These are multiple different companies that build homes, right? In that marketplace. And so all you have to do is click. Here's their phone number. Here's their website. Sometimes they have an email on there. Email is honestly a good way. I know, and Isham knows this the most about me. I am not the biggest fan of emails, but for some reason in the building construction space, emails are almost better than texting or calling. For some reason, people look at their emails at an ungodly level, and I think I know why. And I could throw out a random reason, but here's my reason: is because in order to get information from counties and cities, it mostly takes an email. And so I think they're on their email just like looking for utility maps, getting sent stuff from the city's applications. And so that's why I think email works for builders, but call them first. Don't be lazy. But yes, that's the most efficient way to find builders in your marketplace. Google X Market spec home builders. You're going to get a list. Sit there on the phone. Some of the quickest questions that we could ask on the phone that we do ask is, hey, where are you looking to build? How many builds do you do a year? How many builds do you do a year is what I've learned to be one of the biggest questions, because I know real quick who's going to give me an answer quick and who's not. If someone's like, I only have the capacity to build 3 homes a year, which they're probably not going to be on this list, to be honest with you. If they only build 3, they're probably a mom and pop or husband, wife. But if you come across those builders that do 3 homes a year, 4 homes a year, they're going to be really slow in giving you an offer or doing due diligence, anything like that. Why? Because their risk tolerance is lower because there's a reason. They're not doing volume. And so they know that they have to be careful with the deals they buy and all that. So I've mentioned this before, but if you can go in a marketplace and you can find builders that are doing anywhere from 10 to 30 homes a year, and they're a smaller, company, the chance you're going to have where they're going to fall in love with you skyrockets, and they know their numbers. They really do. Most builders shouldn't take long to give you an answer on something. If they tell you yes or no, it's usually based on the location, the neighbors, or simply the price. Those are the 3 main reasons. Most builders, they will, if there's a utility issue, they're not, and it's a good price, good area, they'll work it out. They'll figure something out. But those are the biggest things. So go in your marketplace, and on these builders that are this, ask if they're a custom home builder, or ask if they do spec homes, or look at their website first. Because sometimes when you ask a custom home builder if they do custom homes, they get kind of butthurt. I learned that when I started. So just be careful. But anyways, yes, ask if they buy land. A lot of home builders, you'd be surprised, don't buy land. Why? Isham, do you want to answer this?
Why custom home builders don't buy land?
You just answered the question. I said, why do some home builders not buy land? But you answered it in response. That's awesome.
Yeah. I just saw Racky pop up in the chat. I'm like, hey, the Atlanta team's here. I'm sorry, I got a little distracted. Racky's a beast, by the way. Guys, total side note, our other podcast, Wholesale Elite, Will Coggins and Racky Zidane, you got to go listen to their interviews. I mean, they just have incredible stories. Racky came over here from Iraq. Crazy story. They're both partners in the Atlanta marketplace, crushing it, 6-figure months. Those guys are beasts. And so anyways, sorry. Yes, back to custom home builders not buying land.
There you go. So that's awesome. Yes. Anyways, go check out Racky and Will's episode and just go connect with them. If you're in Atlanta, those dudes are hustlers. Those dudes will either sell your deal, buy your deal, whatever, JV your deal. They've got resources like no one's business in the Atlanta area. Go connect with them both. Yes. Anyways, okay. Sidetracked. I was trying to hype you guys up, Will and Racky. You guys are awesome. Anyways, yes, custom home builders do not buy land. Why? Because clients bring them land. So if you get on the phone with it, very rarely, there's a handful of custom home building companies that I do know that buy land, which they are extremely rare. But if you find them, they're gold. But anyways, yeah, custom home builders, I usually don't even bother calling most of the time, just because I've just been a waste of my time, really. In terms of those conversations, they don't really lead to much. So that's why I Google spec home builders. For those that don't know, a spec home is something that is kind of either repeated in terms of a build plan. It's where they can just kind of throw these deals up quickly and efficiently. They're typically cheaper to build because spec homes, they're not building for a client, meaning they're using basic material, either vinyl siding. Sometimes spec home builders will use hardy board siding, which is just that one step up from vinyl. And it kind of gives it just a nicer finish. But for the most part, there's no custom finishes. I mean, you're talking granite countertops, quartz countertops, cabinets from Home Depot. Like they're just kind of throwing these houses. And I don't want to say throwing because they're nice builds, right?
I was going to say, man, you're making spec home builders sound like they're building shacks.
No. There are spec home builders that build beautiful homes, and more or less modular homes are the ones you need to be careful for. And for those that don't know, a modular home is built in like a factory, and it's kind of just brought in on a truck and they just throw walls up. Spec home is a site build. So that's built from the ground up. There are beautiful spec homes, and spec home builders do use expensive material. I'm not making them sound cheap. A lot of them do use expensive material. So
yeah, it's mostly spec home builders have a plan already. Whereas custom, it's design, it's whatever that client needs. And so the reason why spec home builders can cut their costs down is because they can buy in bulk. They know that they have 3 different types of plans or 2 different types of house plans. And that may be a $700,000 house, one of those plans. But if their market allots them to build, a decent amount of those, they can buy the stuff that they need for those builds in bulk. And so that's a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, spec home builders are simply just they're building to throw on the market. They're not building for someone that they usually don't already have a buyer. There are plenty of cases where they do, but for the most part, they're not. So that's why we work with them. It's because they're essentially the fix and flippers of land. Yes. They're just building rather than painting, right? Or taking out an old door, putting a new door in. They're essentially the fix and flippers of land. And so that's why we work with them. They know their numbers. They're quick with it usually. And it's just bada bing, bada boom. And it's fun because we get to be a part of essentially new construction projects, which is, it's cool to see something that we assigned on from dirt to an actual house that a family's living in. So I enjoy that. Outside of that,
jump in really quick, yeah. On the custom side of the house, here's the thing, because custom home guys usually don't buy land, like Tanner was saying. They don't keep inventory of land. Every now and again, some will, but usually those guys just got a crazy deal on land, or it's like waterfront or something that they know that their clientele will buy. But a lot of these a lot of these custom home guys have agents, right? That work with them. And so if you've got a great property, you can always reach out to them, ask them who their agent is, and just plug in with their agent because agents network. So anyways, I want to throw that out there.
No, you're good. Yeah. And like Rocky's last comment, it's important to know your market because I've said this in previous episodes, but you need to understand the neighborhoods in your market because a lot of there's certain parts of our market where builders sell only to investors. And you're probably like, wait, a builder sells to an investor? That doesn't make sense. They sell to like a portfolio buyer. They sell to short-term rental people or investors, short-term or long-term rental investors. And so they know that they can buy land more expensive. So I know in certain areas of our market, we don't have to be as deep on discounts because investors usually are paying cash, meaning they don't have to worry about interest rates. And so it's just a trickle-down effect, right? Because if you're paying cash for a property, even if the interest rate's at 50% just inhumane where no one can buy it doesn't matter for people that are buying property cash. So that's why a lot of our builders right now, with the interest rates being high, they're only wanting to sell to investors because investors mostly buy cash. So even on a $1.2 million home that they're building, these investors that are paying for that 1.2, they're bringing in cash. They're not worried about interest rates. So they can sell these deals more efficiently. So, hey, what's going on, Lemarius? That's right.
What up?
What's that? Goes to show why you guys are industry titans on specific land. Hey, Will's hyping us up out here, bro.
Will's the man.
Will is the man. The other thing to mention is you can do tract home, and I'll kind of wrap the episode up with this. We had a great conversation with another land investor. What was it? Yesterday. Alex Pryor. His Twitter's insane, guys. He drops gems on Twitter. So if you're on Twitter, go follow Alexander Pryor. He drops land gems like no one's business. He actually only does tract like large acreage to sell to the DR Hortons of the world, sell to these ginormous home builder companies that go in and build subdivisions. And so
while he's in college.
Yeah, while he's in college. So, and he's got a company, he's got an office space, he's got a team of 12 people. Like he's got it figured out. And so, that's another option. We do one-off residential lots. That's just our model. Eventually, we'll keep working our way up. Like I said, we're implementing innovations, but for now, that's what's worked best for us. But he went straight into tract home developments. So, currently. This is a land strategy for those that maybe are confused by what I'm saying. Is instead of doing one lot or maybe 2 to 3 lots at a time like we do in terms of like on the street, he's going out, he's finding 150 acre plots of land on the suburbs of a market or a submarket, and he's going out and getting it under contract based on a price per acre, 20,000 an acre, 30,000 an acre, whatever it may be in your market, and then he's just calling the D.R. Hortons. Hey, I've got this deal I want to sell. Do you guys want it? Sure. Now, those take a way longer process. So if you're one of these people that get into wholesaling and there's no knock, because this was me when I started, if you're one of the people that are like, I need money now, I want money now, that type of thing, that's not your play. Those are 12-month projects. Like feasibility, like you're not closing on one of those deals for at least 9 to 12 months typically. So if the spreads are massive. And 2 years, Alex is set to make over $2 million. On these large acreage deals, just from assignments. That's nothing else. There's no entitlements. He's not doing civil engineering. So that maybe if you have time to where you're okay with waiting 12 months to make some money, that may be an option for you. But if not, and you want to get quick rips, 20, 30, 40, 50K assignments, look at residential infill lots. And that's what our company does specifically. We like the volume space of things because that's what makes it the hustle bustle and the fun.
And guys, to be honest with you, like babies don't come out running. You know what I mean? Like, take your time. There's so many, like in the single family side, there's so many people that start off and want to do multifamily. It's like, yo, chill, learn. There's levels to this thing. There's progression. Alex was able to start off a little bit more advanced because he and his partner were already crushing on the single family side. So he knew how to speak the language. He had run into so many scenarios where he's like, wait a minute, I think there's more money over here, in doing this thing. So if you're getting started, stick with infill. There's a reason for that. Stick with infill, learn the language, connect, get your network going, and then eventually figure out what you want to do from there.
So we'll wrap this up with 2 quick questions. Rocky, I'll get to your question right after Will. So Will Coggins asked, if builders aren't doing in-house acquisitions, how have they historically sourced their deals? Agents? Yes, mostly agents, referrals. Builders are, at least in our market, again, we're not in Orlando. We're not in a giant market. We're in a sub-market. It's a pretty big market considering we're in like 3 counties. But most of the builders in our area are known throughout communities, right? You probably see builders, building companies on billboards in your market. So these builders are usually known. So yes, agents are feeding them deals. Some of these builders that don't have in-house acquisitions, they're out hustling for deals themselves. They see a for sale by owner sign. They call them while they're in their truck driving to a job site. The other option is simply referrals. People that they've just known in the community that said, hey, now I want to sell my land. Do you want to buy it? And so that's why builders love land acquisition like us, is because it saves them time. They don't have to sit there and hustle with all these other people. And we're just feeding them land at the price they want. And so it takes out the negotiating and all that. And so Raki, this is the last question because I know we got to bounce. But Raki asked, what separates you guys from others who focus on identifying lands and providing opportunities?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
So there's weapons of war, right? And I guess this is kind of my the thing that I appreciate about us. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. You've got a grenade and you got a sniper rifle. They're both very effective, for different reasons. You can throw a grenade and hope for the best, but you might get some good stuff going on. Whereas snipers, you look through the scope, you put on that dome and you pull the trigger. And so I see like we're snipers. We don't spray and pray. We don't send mail out to 10,000 leads in 3 counties with these, average offers on it and just see what comes back. Our approach is very targeted. We pick off certain leads. We know exactly the lead we're going for. When we call them, a lot of times we know more about that land or about their land than they do when we're calling. And so our approach is very targeted, which helps with credibility. It helps with trust. And we're local. We only stick to our market. We call from a local area code. If a seller wants to meet one of us, we can go out there on the lot and shake their hands. And so I think that, from a realistic standpoint, we're just a lot more believable. Is that duplicatable, if that's the word? Maybe not. I started off in Alaska. Tanner started off in Oklahoma. Our call guys were in Miami and Minnesota, but over time, we figured it out, and we got some boots on the ground and whatnot. Now we've got team Tanner is actually in our market now. So, I think we began with the end in mind. And I think that was very important. We didn't start off with just like, how can I make a shit ton of money in land? We really did plan this thing out and then kind of work backwards. Real quick, Tanner, I'm going to bounce. I know you still want to talk to people. I got another podcast to do here shortly, but guys, it's been real. It's been fun. Thank you so much for coming on. And, I'm going to be out. So I'll see you guys around. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. See you, Isham.
Later, bro.
Yeah, guys, I'm about to wrap it too. I have a call with a seller to try to close a deal. So everyone, give me a quick prayer. But anyways, I appreciate everyone showing up. Keep showing up. This is awesome. Love when everyone interacts, asks questions, hangs out, does all the cool stuff with us. So that's why we do this. We do this to provide value. Want to help, again, everyone, not just land investors, not just people wholesaling land deals. We want to help everyone add a tool to their tool belt in their business. So even if you're doing single family, commercial, whatever it is, anything outside of land, we just want to be a resource to where you guys could add a tool in your tool belt. In case an agent brings you a land deal, you have some information, some knowledge on that, and at least know a place to start. So outside of that, guys, we drop our Wholesale Elite podcast where we interview one person every single week, a real estate entrepreneur. You get to hear their story, their business, all that fun stuff. And so make sure you tune into that on new episode comes out every, Monday? Monday, yeah. And then lastly, check out Sales Disruptors, www.gotreisales.com for those listening. Sales training is $97 a month. And like I said, guys, that sales training process is about to make us $25K. It saved one of our deals. And that was less than a month. So go spend $97. The ROI is insane. Outside of that, guys, love everyone. Appreciate you showing up. And we will see you next week on Grounded at 3 p.m. Peace.